hello, good morning. It's the 21st of December 2025. And this time last year, I had the opportunity to rent out Astley Castle in Nuneaton, which technically isn't actually a castle, it's a stately home. And there's a lot of information online about the castle and its history. And the main reason I rented it out last year is because it had always been my dad's dream and my dream to have the opportunity to ever stay at the castle if it ever got regenerated or revenerated, renovate. I can never say that word. Restored. So what actually happened was the Landmark Trust. They don't own it. They have I think it's like 100-year or 1,000-year lease or whatever on the property. And they regenerated the property under the Landmark Trust scheme, and it became a place where people could rent it out, and between 3 days and onwards. And it is bloody expensive, okay? I'm not joking. It took me from the day it was publicly announced that this place was going to be rented out to anyone who could afford to stay there until 2024 to actually save the money and get a booking. I'm not joking. That is how popular it is. And after staying there, not just visiting on open days, because it has 2 open days a year, and they're also Sudden Impulse. They are an amazing theatre company in Nuneaton who always do a Shakespearean play every summer at Astley Castle. They use the grounds. And to literally watch a live performance as the sun is setting, it is the most amazing experience that I would say, if you can do it, do it. And after staying there, I was absolutely good. I was so pissed because 3 days just was not long enough. And what annoyed me about the Landmark Trust is literally when I got home after my 3 days and I checked my emails, and I've still not given them my feedback. And I know it's been a year, so I'm a little bit behind the curve. And they said I got a £10, £20 discount on my next stay. And I was like, you idiots, why didn't you tell me about this discount? At the time, I booked to stay at Astley Castle. And then I wouldn't have just stayed for the 3 days. I would have done winter solstice, and we would have been there for the 25th of December as well. And it would have just been absolutely amazing. I also had the opportunity to go to the church, which was next door. And I did record all this, and I have saved it on an external hard drive. And maybe that's why I just haven't wrote about it since, because I've got so much to go through that I just cannot find what I'm looking for. Reception there was really, really, really bad, but they did warn you about that because it's one of those locations where they don't want you to be on your iPhone 24/7 or be on the internet. They want you to experience the property for what it is. I'm not saying there isn't internet access there. There are certain ways to get your iPhone to work, and I've proved that. And I even managed to stream on my laptop a video from, I think it was like Disney, a movie for my kids. So where there's a will, there's a way. But I wouldn't recommend standing at the top of the castle and hanging yourself literally out of the window to get phone reception. All right? But there is a way. And I'm pretty sure you will find it if you ever stay there. So it was a real breathtaking and remarkable experience. And one, like I said, I literally saved up for 10 years. And last year, it was my children's dad's 50th birthday. So to celebrate his 50th birthday, and also in memory of my dad, who did sadly die in his early 50s of a brain tumour, I planned this amazing 3 days for my family, and they never came. My mum did with a little bit of persuasion, and I've still not sent this information to my aunt or my uncle, who are my dad's siblings, who are still alive. And it was basically 8-inch cine film of when he was in the Merchant Navy. And it took me until last year to even get it out of the house. My mom would not let me touch it. She would not let me see it. She would not let me view it. She wouldn't let me go anywhere near it. And sadly, because It had literally been sat in a box for about 50 years, because he was in the Merchant Navy when he was like in his late teens, early 20s for 3 years. And nobody had ever seen this footage. Nobody had ever viewed it. No one ever painstakingly had took the time to convert it. And there are companies out there that can do that. But I just said to myself, you know what? I'll just buy the equipment and do it myself. So for a first attempt, I think I did really, really well. I'm not happy with it, and I'm looking at doing it again. So because my dad's birthday was on the 22nd of December, I invited my mom, and she came over. And as usual, you know, she really struggled because getting to the castle itself is not disabled friendly. You have to go up this really steep dirt track. But once you're there, there's a lift. So it is, once you're actually in the castle itself, it is so disabled friendly, it's unbelievable. But from a design point of view, yes, it's absolutely breathtaking. However, after 10 years, it does need a bit of TLC. And there are a few issues with, you know, how do you fix things when they get broken? So we did get the opportunity to speak to the housekeeper and her husband, and they were explaining the pros and cons and some of the logistical issues, which at the time, you know, an architecture draws up the plans, but they might not necessarily know the pros and cons about, you know, where to put plug socket, or, you know, if that plug socket breaks, which is a sim problem of how in the house I'm renting, how would you fix it? How would you change a light bulb in a property where the light is over the staircase, which is in an open plan room? You need scaffolding. So, you know, that's why in a way, so there's certain times of the year it's not open, probably because they're having to, or in theory, they should be doing the repairs. So anyway, it was just absolutely breathtaking having the opportunity to do last year the winter solstice, celebrating my ex-partner's 50th birthday with his children, which was really, really nice to him, you know, because he would have liked to have gone to America to visit his brother. And everyone was probably thinking it would have been cheaper to have gone to America than to rent out Astley Castle for 3 days. But sadly, it wouldn't have, and he already had plans. Celebrate my dad's birthday in memory of him by showing his cine films to my family. And some of them are on my YouTube page and channel, and some of them aren't. So this year for winter solstice, sadly, I'm not doing anything amazing. If I wasn't being forced out of this property that I'm renting, I was going to go to the seaside this weekend with my kids. Pardon me. That's absolutely disgusting. I'm sorry I did that. I was trying not to cough. But my little boy's ill. And funny enough, he was actually ill last year as well. So, you know, all those germs from school. So it was nice for him to just be in a place that was home from home and not by the coast, which I would have loved. So maybe I'll do that next year if I can afford it. So I sadly am not anywhere exotic or adventurous this year for winter solstice. So what I will aim to do is share the videos, and if I have time, I'll edit some of them over the weekend. But my main priority is getting this house in order, putting all my stuff in storage. I was hoping to take some more stuff to the charity shops, but they won't be accepting anything now until the new year. So it's just box it. And, you know, if I need to hire a van in February, when apparently I'm supposed to now move out after the complete and utter fuck up by Neaton in bed with Borough Council and my landlord, to say whether or not I legally had to move out in December. It's an absolute mess, basically. This is why I always say to people, you know, seek advice. Go to the CAB office. Go and look on the shelter website. You know, I'm lucky I'm with P3. And even P3 kept saying, this is not illegal, Section 21. And the council were going, yes, it is, yes, it is, yes, it is. And then in a 45-minute interview, they turned around and said, no, it's not. So literally from October right through now, my mental health has been through the roof. And you've probably seen me, I've done posts in the fall saying, hey, welcome to Crazy Katie's YouTube channels. because it's kind of the only way I can cope with the amount of shittery I've had to deal with. And I just love the fact that last year we just had the opportunity, after saving for 10 years of my life, to spend that time and do something that I said I was going to do and do it. You know, life's too short. You've got to sometimes just do it. Just do it, yeah? Whatever that is. And next year, I think that's what I'm going to be doing. Next year, I'm going to be like, once obviously all the shit's sorted out with the property and maybe hopefully I have somewhere new to live, fingers crossed, I'm just going to do it. Okay, I'm going to have to be careful because I don't want to be like that poor bugger who, because he liked cricket, has now been told by the Department of Work and Pensions that he's got to pay all this money back, so they believe he wasn't disabled enough in the first place. Hello, for fuck's sake, he had a prosthetic leg. The fact that he could be able to even do any sports was a miracle in itself. He has not committed fraud. Do you have any idea how much pain that guy was probably in once he had done a couple of rounds of cricket with his friends? Plus, being someone who does have arthritis, I am actually constantly told by my GP, by the hospital, by the physiotherapy department, exercise, exercise, exercise. Use it or lose it. And I'm not saying that to be funny, you know, because unfortunately this guy did lose his leg. But the one thing he would have had to have done was keep his weight at a certain, you know, level. So maybe they said to him, you know, your ideal BMI, your ideal weight is you cannot be heavier than, say, 12 stone for argument's sake. So of course he's going to try and exercise and keep himself fit and healthy, because the more weight you've got, the more pressure and pain you then get in that limb. And I know that for a fact. You know, so many people I've spoken to, they've always said having arthritis is a double-edged sword. You're told to exercise, but you can't exercise because you're in pain. And then when you don't exercise, you then put on the weight, which then means you're in even more pain. So there's a certain pain threshold that you have to try and push through. And I think, you know, the way so many people are still being discriminated and being made to be guilt-tripped by not claiming benefits is disgusting. Okay? If someone can get PIP because they're snoring, which may be a sign of something like sleep apnea, which is quite serious because obviously you stop breathing, then why are they penalising some guy who, you know, has had to have his leg amputated and just enjoys, you know, playing cricket a few times a week? So that's a separate issue. But again, you know, that's kind of what I always look at, you know, when I think of the winter solstice. It's the shortest day of the year. And it's to celebrate life. It's to celebrate new life. You know, we have these key pivotal moments in the Gregorian calendar, which is something we now follow. And, you know, everyone's always like happy clappy, you know, oh yes, let's go to church, let's do this, let's do that. But we should be doing these things on a daily basis anyway. We shouldn't just be gift giving and caring for people one day a year, or, you know, at Easter, or, you know, on your birthday. And you know what? I hope this guy, I know I've digressed, but I really, really hope he gets his money back and he fights it with tooth and nail, because I know the Citizens Advice Bureau will really, really clamp down on the Department of Work and Pensions about this, because they've even used some of my evidence as case study, because they've asked me. And I've said, yeah, use it. You know, if you want to use the way I've been treated to help somebody else who's sicker than me or has the same illness or disability as me to prove that they are legally entitled to claim disability living allowance because that illness or that disability affects them on a daily basis, so they are literally unable to live a normal life, or, you know, to live a life without, you know, being in pain or discomfort or having to rely on people or services or aids. then yeah, by all means. So, if I had my way, every pensioner would be on disability living allowance or PIP, but I don't think you can claim it when you reach retirement age. I'm not sure. They keep changing the rules. Because losing your hearing doesn't matter when you lose your hearing, whether you're born deaf or or your sight. That is a disability. People will probably say, well, that's just part of being old. Yeah, but if you've spent 50 years of your life being able to hear, being able to see, you've now got to adapt your daily life to having a visual impairment, having a hearing impairment. And the moment you have those problems, it makes you more prone to slips, trips, falls, accidents. So, UK, again, they are tailored to support people who are over the age of 50. So, yeah, my children's dad basically could go there and say, I've got tinnitus. What support is there? Because I'm over the age of 50. And having tinnitus, he doesn't claim disability living allowance or PIP. It's because obviously the little hairs in the ears have been damaged over years of hard working, not sitting there listening to rave music. And it can affect your balance. And there was a time where literally every other day he was tripping over, he was falling over, he was falling down staircases. He did it here a few weeks back. But you imagine if you're not in your 50s and you're a little bit older than that and you're still having accidents. There are provisions out there for people. They're just really, really hard to access. And unless people share the information, it's very hard for people to be aware of it. So I am going to do winter solstice today. I'm hoping to have a fire in the garden. So I need to just double check that my family want to do that. But if my son is too ill, we'll just have the fire at their dad's house and I'll get them to video it and send me a video and then I'll put it online for them. But it's just unbelievable how people's lives can just change like that, It always makes me laugh when they used to do that advert. Every time I click my fingers, that is a child dying in West Africa. And I just remember this guy saying it as a joke, well, stop clicking your fingers then. But that's how quickly your life can change in a blink of an eye. And there's a movie called In a Blink of an Eye, which is actually about this woman who got accused of murder. And her friend got her out of prison. And I did read the information about it, and she ended up living in Ireland. So from America to go and living in Ireland, and she actually only died a couple of years back. Her name was Sunny. Her real name was Sonia, but in the movie they call her Sunny. But unfortunately, her partner, he, again, was on death row. She got life in prison. He was on death row, and he was executed. And it wasn't until after his execution that they were able to prove that neither of them were actually involved in the execution of these police officers. So if you look for the movie In a Blink of an Eye, based on a true story, again, it just shows how quickly someone's life can change. And the reason their life changed so drastically was because of what people saw or what people believed they saw within that split second. And again, it is that can literally change somebody's life. It could just be something a bit like the butterfly effect. You never know what is going to change your life, whether it's going to be for the good or the bad or the worse. It's just, I know it sounds really cheesy to say, but you literally have to take each day as it comes. And yes, I know people work, and I'm not saying don't work or, play hooky or whatever, but just try and live your life for you. And obviously make room for your friends, your family, your loved ones, and your responsibilities, but you're never going to get that time back. And I just think it's really important today to remember that today is the winter solstice. It's the shortest day of the year. It is the longest night of the year. And it would have been a day in the calendar, just like Saturnalia, just like celebrating in the new year. that people would have celebrated. And it's such a shame that that has all been taken away due to changes within society. So if you can take that time today to welcome in the longest day of the year and just, have that time for you to do something you want to do, then do so. And I will tune in later.